Alex, I spent the first decade of my life in a woodshop, breathing in more walnut dust than oxygen because I was too lazy to walk 6 feet to flip a toggle switch on a vacuum. It's a special kind of stubbornness where you'll spend 4 hours hand cutting a tenon, but flicking a secondary switch feels like climbing Everest.
It's not just laziness, Tiger. It's that flow state everyone talks about. You don't want to break the magic by trekking across the room to a loud, rumbling box. Although your lungs probably would have appreciated the interruption.
My lungs have definitely filed a formal grievance. But that's why we're talking about the nervous system of the shop today. Wiring and automation. It's the invisible stuff that makes a shop feel more like a partner and less like a chore.
It's funny you call it a nervous system, because every time I look at a wiring diagram for an automated blast gate, my own nerves start fraying. It feels like we're crossing over from woodworking into please don't burn the garage down territory.
Well, that's a healthy fear. Keeps the eyebrows intact. But honestly, the tech has come so far from the days when you had to be a literal electrical engineer to get a vacuum to turn on with a saw. We're going to peel back the curtain on how to actually wire these machines, and more importantly, how to make the dust collection think for itself. Let's start with the basics. If you want your vacuum to kick on when you pull the trigger on your miter saw, you're looking at current sensing. It's like a little guard dog sitting on your power line. When it feels the bite of electricity moving to the tool, it barks at the dust collector to wake up.
Okay, so I've seen those little IVAC units on your shelf. Are we talking about a simple plug-and-play situation, or am I going to be opening up my breaker panel and praying to the gods of voltage?
It depends on how much of a mad scientist vibe you're going for. For most people, those IVAC Pro switches are the gold standard because they don't require you to touch a single wire nut. You plug the tool into a sensor, the sensor talks via radio frequency to the switch at the vacuum, and boom, airflow.
But you're never one for the easy path, Tiger. I've seen your setup. There are more wires back there than an old telephone exchange.
Guidey, I went the rib route. Functional Devices makes these industrial current sensors and relays. It's a bit more permanent. You wrap a little ring, a toroid, around the hot wire of your tool's power cord. When the tool starts, that ring generates a tiny signal that trips a heavy-duty relay. It's bulletproof, but yeah, it involves a screwdriver and a bit of focus.
So for someone like me who values my time and my remaining hair, is the over-engineered route actually better? Or is it just a way to feel like Tony Stark in a flannel shirt?
There's a sweet spot. If you've got a small shop with 2 or 3 big machines, the IVAC or a similar wireless system is a dream. But if you're running a 240-volt, 5-horsepower Cyclone like that Clearview I've got in the corner, you need something that can handle the massive thump of that motor starting up without melting into a puddle of plastic.
Let's talk about those blast gates. That's the real magic trick, right? The tool turns on, the vacuum starts, and then, clunk, the right vent opens up. No more wondering why your sander has zero suction, only to realize the planer gate is wide open across the room.
That clant clunk sound is the most satisfying thing in a workshop, second only to a sharp plane taking a whisper-thin shaving. I used to be terrible about that. I'd be working at the table saw, thinking my collector was losing its edge, only to find out I'd left the joiner gate open for 3 days. It's like trying to drink through a straw with 5 holes poked in it.
I saw a video from Johnny Brook over at Crafted Workshop where he went all in on the IVAC automated gates. He mentioned it's a big project. What's the catch? Is it just the cost, or is there a technical hurdle we're missing?
Money is the big one. Those automated gates aren't cheap. If you've got 10 tools, you're looking at a serious investment. But the real gotcha is the wiring for the gates themselves. They need their own power. You can't just stick them on the pipe and hope for the best. You're running low voltage lines, basically doorbell wire, to every single gate in the shop.
So my dream of a wireless shop still involves a spider web of wires for the automation?
Don't tell the marketing guys, but yeah, even wireless systems usually need a power tap. But here's a tip I learned the hard way. If you're doing this, don't just zip tie those thin wires to your dust hose. One accidental snag with a piece of lumber and you've ripped the guts out of your automation. Run them through a bit of inexpensive ENT conduit, that blue flexible stuff, and you'll sleep a lot better.
Let's move to the scary stuff, 240-volt wiring. Most hobbyists are terrified of that big double-pole breaker. Is it really necessary for dust collection, or can I get by on a standard 110-volt outlet?
If you're just running a small shop vac with a separator, 110 is fine. But if you want to actually move enough air to keep the microscopic lung clogger dust out of the air, you need a real impeller. And real impellers want 240. It's like trying to tow a boat with a moped versus a truck. The truck, the 240V motor, doesn't have to work nearly as hard. It runs cooler, it starts faster, and honestly, once you wire your first 240V circuit, you realize it's actually simpler in some ways. Just two hots and a ground, no neutral to fuss with on most of these motors.
Easy for you to say. I remember you telling me about the time you tried to temporary wire a sander and ended up with a light show that would have rivaled a New Year's Eve display.
Oh man, I was younger and a lot more impatient. I tried to tap into a junction box that I thought was dead. It wasn't. There's no sound quite like the pop of a circuit breaker when it's telling you you're being an idiot. That's my paid for lesson for the day. Buy a non-contact voltage tester. It's a $10 pen that glows red if the wire is live. It's the only thing that stands between me and a very curly hairstyle I didn't ask for.
Noted. Save the light shows for the stage. Now, what about this system I saw called Grit? It's for bigger shops, right? Educational spaces and commercial floors?
Grit is the Big Brother version, but in a good way. It's not just turn on vacuum. It's, is the operator actually certified to use this table saw? It uses RFID badges. You tap your card, the gate opens, the dust collector ramps up on a VFD, a variable frequency drive, and the saw gets power.
That feels a bit intense for a home shop, doesn't it? Sorry, honey, I can't build the spice rack. My RFID badge is in my other pants.
Maybe a bit much for a spice rack. But they do something cool that home shop folks should pay attention to: VFD control. Most of us just turn the vacuum on at full blast. A VFD allows the motor to ramp up slowly. It saves a massive amount of energy, and more importantly, it stops that huge light flickering surge every time you start a tool.
I've noticed that. Every time I hit the saw, the shop lights dim for a second. It feels like the whole house is holding its breath.
That's the inrush current. Y'all, it can be 3 to 5 times the running current. If you're wiring your shop, try to keep your dust collector on a completely different circuit or even a different leg of your sub panel than your lights. It's a small thing that makes the shop feel a lot more professional and a lot less clunky.
You've got all this high-tech sensing, but then I see stuff like this. Plain old foil tape. Is this part of the wiring too?
In a way, yeah, it's the grounding of the system. There's this long-standing debate in woodworking circles about static electricity and plastic PVC pipes. Some guys swear it can cause a dust explosion. Personally, I've never seen a hobby shop go up in a mushroom cloud because of a PVC pipe, but I have been zapped hard enough to drop a piece of cherry, and that's a tragedy in itself.
So you're saying I need to wire my pipes?
Not the way some people think. You don't need a copper wire running through the middle of the pipe. That just catches hair and wood chips and creates a clog. Just use that foil tape at the joints to keep things grounded, or better yet, use Spiral 1 metal ducting if you can afford it. It's basically self-grounding and looks like $1,000,000.
Speaking of looking like $1,000,000, Johnny Brook used that 3 meters silver foil tape and something called Extreme Self-Fusing Tape. What's the deal with the self-fusing stuff?
That stuff is magic. It's not sticky until it touches itself, then it bonds into a solid piece of rubber. I use it for sealing the connections between the automated gates and the tools. It's 100% airtight. Every tiny leak you have in your ducting is just a tax on your suction. If you have 10 small leaks, you've basically lost the power of half your motor.
Okay, let's wrap this into some real-world advice. If someone is sitting in their garage right now looking at a pile of sawdust and a shop vac, what's the first step to getting this nervous system started?
Don't do what I did and try to build the whole empire in one weekend. Start with a simple tool-activated switch for your most used machine. Usually the table saw or the miter saw. It's $40. You plug it in and you experience that joy of it just works.
And once they're hooked on that convenience?
Then you start looking at the ducted system. But here's the most important tip I can give. Before you buy a single gate or a foot of wire, draw it out. I mean it. Get a piece of graph paper. If you don't know where the tools are going to live, you're going to be rewiring every 6 months. My shop floor has more ghost holes from moved machines than a block of Swiss cheese.
I've seen the ghost of workshops past on your floor. It's a bit of a graveyard for lag bolts.
Exactly. Mobility is great for a start, but if you want automation, you have to commit. Pick a spot for the big stuff. Wire it once, wire it right, and use a gauge of wire that's one step heavier than you think you need. Your motors and your future self will thank you.
So the takeaway is, start small, don't be afraid of 240V, and maybe buy a voltage tester before you start poking around.
And for heaven's sake, if you feel a static tingle on your arm when you're vacuuming, Don't just ignore it. That's your shop's way of saying it's time for some grounding tape. Your elbows will appreciate not being a lightning rod.
I think I can manage that. No lightning rods in the tiger den today.
Good. Now get that pen away from my table saw. You're making me nervous with all that clicking. Let's go see if we can wire up that new router station without tripping the main housebreaker, shall we?
Lead the way, Sparky.